for a second how we came to organize this event. So a few weeks ago, CEPS published a document that is entitled "The Time for Rapid Redevelopment of Coal Region is Now," which attracted very much the attention of our institute because it was speaking about how the response to the coronavirus pandemic could actually be a case for enforcing and reinforcing the redevelopment and the transition of coal regions to a new coal-free future, and how that could be also a support for the people that will have to undergo this transition. So we contacted CEPS, and then I had the opportunity and pleasure to speak with Gerasimos Tomas, the Vice Minister for Energy of Greece, and propose whether he would be willing to participate in such an event with CEPS. He confirmed. And then we spoke with the Commission, who also very kindly accepted, and I want to thank both speakers for being with us. And then through CEPS, we also had the participation of Andrzej Zabiklinski, sorry if I don't pronounce your name right, from the Katowice Special Economic Zone. Jorge Nunez, who will be moderating this session from CEPS, will go in further introductions. But what I wanted to say in terms of a few introductory remarks is that we had already seen that coal regions were suffering a quite steep change in what is happening because coal is coming out of production and renewables are getting into their place. So this economic pressure that they were feeling has actually been very much aggravated by the coronavirus situation. And this industrial transformation and economic transformation will be requiring quite a lot of diversification and change in the whole development model of those regions. And we believe that not only will it affect those people whose jobs and livelihoods are directly connected to the activities that have something to do with coal, but also everybody else that lives around those regions, because their everyday economy, from commerce to anything else, will have to undergo significant changes. And we believe that there will be a need for significant support in this transition, both in terms of investment and financial support, but also for training, for helping people to come along this very important change. Yesterday, the European Commission, led by DG Regio, started the launch of the Just Transition platform, which I think is a very, very important process, and this will be going on for the entire week, in which the Commission is presenting all the tools that will be available to regions and to governments and to stakeholders for driving through this huge process that will make, hopefully, and I'm quite confident about that, Europe one of the leading regions of the world for this transition to a new coal-free economy. So I think we'll be able to hear a lot for these things from our three very interesting speakers. Let me just say that during the event, there will be also the opportunity for two voting, if you like, or polling sessions, which we have organized. You will be able to go to the Mentimeter. I will share with you exactly how you can do that. I can actually share this right now. You will be able to go on to this address, which is www.menti.com, and you will be required to put the code 520221. I will repeat it later on, and you'll be able to go on and vote onto those specific questions that will be asked, so that your opinion, whether you wish to participate through Q&A or not, will be recorded also on what we'll be doing. And without any further ado, I would like to give over now the helm to Jorge Nunez, who will be doing the moderation. Jorge, thank you very much for undertaking this demanding task. And thank you all.
Well, thank you for asking CEPS to help in this. It's a great honor to have these three important speakers. We have actually, it's a very interesting webinar when you're saying, because we have three different viewpoints, because we have a deputy minister responsible for environment and energy. Actually, he's the main person responsible for the transition in his country, and has also a very illustrious past in the Commission. And he will present really the point of view of a place that has a big job in front to do. We then have the Director General from the Commission that is presenting the EU support and the EU vision from an EU level. So we have a national EU, but then we also have Mr. Zabielinski, that is Vice President of the Katowice Special Economic Zone. If you know Katowice, after with the transition, suffered enormously from the economic impact and the transition impact, having actually very strong part in coal, as was an important coal sector in Poland. And he's going to present actually from the practitioner's point of view is how do you swim out of such a problem, how you transform yourself. So these three visions for me are very, very interesting, because it's very rare that we can see this from the three perspectives. So without further ado, I would like to ask Gerasimos Thomas, please, can you give us your view, your road, and what you see in front? What are your experiences, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's a great pleasure to be here and share the floor with Mark, next colleague, and you, Jorge, and Spiros. We have set out to do an ambitious delignitization program last December 2019. We approved a fast-track delignitization of Greece. This is part of our national energy and climate plan that it was adopted by government, and it was set out and awarded by an interministerial committee and approved by the cabinet. So it's a firm, let's say, commitment by the government. At the moment, we have 15 lignite units in Greece, with installed capacity, 14 units with installed capacity 3,900 megawatt, and 1 unit under construction with 660 megawatt. So it was a tough decision, not only to close the existing operating units, but also to foresee a closure for a unit that will only enter into production in 2022. But we thought that this was a one-way street, as part of the greener future and sustainable growth of Greece. In fact, over the past years, lignite production had been decreasing, and the previous government's, let's say, policy was to keep the plants open, but decrease the utilization of the plants. So over the last decade, lignite production decreased from about 30,000 gigawatts per hour to 10,000 gigawatts per hour. So it was a strategy of keeping the capacity open, but underutilizing the capacity, something that had very bad economic results for PPC, the operating, let's say, company, and did not prepare the regions and the company for a new greener energy mix. So we set out to do an ambitious, let's say, delignitization program. We will close all operating power plants by 2023, and the one that will enter into production at the latest by 2028. We have set out a concrete roadmap with specific investments that will replace both the energy generation, but also the jobs that are affected by these plants in the region, with a specific roadmap and master plan that will create alternative sources of energy and alternative sources of jobs and employment for the area. And this was obviously helped, and it will only be possible because of the Just Transition Fund that the European Commission has proposed, and we expect the member states to approve in the very near future. And COVID posed additional risk to economic growth for the whole of the country and the region, but we decided post-COVID to keep the strategy and even accelerate some of these plans. And again, the Recovery Fund, the Recovery and Resilience Fund proposals by the European Commission will probably help us accelerate the job and growth generation opportunities out of this. Now, I will start by saying on the energy front, the closure down of the lignite power plants units create opportunities to deploy fast renewable energy. And this is our first priority, to deploy more renewable energy in Greece. Our target overall for Greece is to more than double our renewable generation capacity in Greece from 6.5 gigawatt that we have deployed now to 14.5 gigawatt by the end of 2030. This will eventually mean that more than 60% of the electricity generation in Greece will be produced by renewables, and this is around 35% of our energy mix. Now, we plan to use the mines areas to deploy at least 2 gigawatts of photovoltaic in the Western Macedonia and 1 gigawatt in Peloponnese, in Megalopoli, and deploy in parallel other renewable wind and photovoltaic parks in the rest of Greece. We have set out a very ambitious auction program. We auction all the capacity in order to help reduce the prices. So this year, in March, already in the middle of the COVID, we ran one auction that was very successful, and for the first time, we had we achieved a price below 50 euros per megawatt for a new photovoltaic park in Western Macedonia, in the affected regions from lignite closure. And we have an auction running right now. So even during the COVID lockdown, projects were prepared both for wind and for photovoltaic, and the government's strategy to, let's say, to simplify the licensing of renewable projects yielded results. We had the first bill that we introduced to Parliament after the lockdown was a bill to simplify the licensing of renewable power plants. So I think by the end of July, we will have awarded 75% of the capacity that we were planning to launch to auction to the market this year. We have this auction process running now, and it is going very well. There is a lot of interest both in Greece and from foreign investors to either develop plants themselves or to do in certain areas, to do this together with PPC, our incumbent, electricity company, who has signed MOUs with several international companies to do just that, develop renewable energy, with RVE from Germany, with EDPR from Portugal, with Masdar from the United Arab Emirates. And there is a specific advantage to develop for photovoltaic plants in these regions because we have an existing grid infrastructure. So the grid infrastructure is strong, and this can allow for fast deployment of renewables in this area. In addition, we run, of course, we envisage new technologies to be deployed in these areas that lignite plants will close down. We have research projects that will develop storage systems, new forms of storage. And of course, we are looking in the second half of this year to look at the hydrogen potential, green hydrogen potential for the area. An important part, staying in the energy side of things, I think an important part of the delignitization process as we move from lignite and coal into renewables is to think on the functioning of the markets and the development of regional cooperation. A country like Greece, it's still, from the electricity point of view, is fairly isolated or insufficiently interconnected. We are doing very well on the natural gas front, but in the electricity side, we need many more interconnections in order to make the system with 65% electricity from renewables work. So we plan to double our interconnection capacity with Bulgaria, electricity interconnection capacity with Bulgaria by 2023. We plan to triple our electricity interconnection capacity with Turkey, and we are discussing on how to increase our interconnection capacity with Albania and North Macedonia. And finally, with Italy, I have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Italian Minister of Energy to double the capacity of interconnection with Italy. So regional cooperation is essential element and part of our strategy in ensuring that an electricity system that is moving from working with coal and lignite can work efficiently, with the largest part of the production side with renewables. But of course, the delignitization process has other impacts, social impacts. These regions in Greece, but I think it's the same in all the countries, the regions that are heavily dependent on lignite mines and lignite production, they concentrate all their economic activity in these areas, and the transition has many social consequences that have to be taken care of, and also that we will have to create the possibility for the economies to diversify their employment potential. So again, in cooperation with the European Commission and with the technical assistance from the European Commission and the local authorities, we have set out to prepare a master plan for transforming the economies of the region and creating new growth opportunities beyond what we will do in the energy sector. It is important, to put together several elements in this discussion, and we address them in our plan, in our master plan for the digitalization. One has to look at the use of space. The space that has been covered now by lignite mines has to be restituted. It has to be rendered environmentally sustainable, and then it has to be reallocated to new uses. So, spatial planning is an important function of any, planning for transforming whole regions away from lignite and coal to new functions. Spatial planning is very important, and with the help of the European Commission, we have engaged with the World Bank that will finalize a study to help us produce the master plan for lignitization, and the large part where they have expertise is in the spatial planning, the optimal and the most efficient use of land post-closure of these activities. The second issue is, to ensure that we have diversification of the economic tissue of the region. So we need primary, secondary, and tertiary economic activity. And we plan in Western Macedonia, which is a big region, we plan to develop all three economic activities. In the Peloponnese, Megalopoli, it's a smaller area, so I think the diversification will be, by definition, different, but there will be diversification. But for Western Macedonia, where we have a large number of plants and a large number, more or less close to 20,000 people involved, we will develop alternative uses and sources of economic activity and growth. And this is an important area that we pay attention, and we will deploy the help of IFIs and the European Commission and national sources in order to ensure that we have the right incentives for this transformation to the people and the optimal use of skills. So skills deployment and reskilling is an important component of our strategy, and that we need to pay special attention. Now, all this, it will only work if it has a very good governance, and this is an element that I want to highlight. A good master plan for delignitization has to have a good governance at the national level, and then it needs to be followed up and it needs to be monitored properly. So we have set up an interministerial committee in line also with the thinking of the European Commission, we have a single transition program for these regions. So it will have an encompassing programming that will pull together the planning of all the activities for this region and all the resources that will flow in this region, both from national or European sources. So there will not be one program for the, let's say, regional development fund, one program for the social fund, one program for the agricultural funds, one program for the national public investment. There will be an integrated strategic planning for the use of and the follow-up of this program. This will be, let's say, followed by an interministerial committee bringing all the ministers involved that will take decisions by consensus. And therefore, below that, we have a special coordinator that will be responsible in running the programs and the financing for these particular regions in an integrated way. Governance is extremely important, and the experience also has shown across the world for transformation of regions, whether out of coal or industrial activities, shows that governance is extremely important. Now, governance is not only the central organization, is the consultation with the local communities. So our plan is to, we have set out the structure, we are finalizing the master plan for the region. It will be ready at the end of August. It will be consulted institutionally with the region and regional local authorities and civil society during the autumn, and it will be ready, reformed and ready for implementation at the end of the year. So we have already closed down 4 power plants, and we are ready to start the necessary preparatory work, where preparatory work is needed, or investments or whatever work is needed already before the end of the year. So we are running a tight structure, very determined, full political support, and very good governance to ensure that decisions are taken with the participation of the local communities, the local authorities, and the civil society. From the very beginning, the civil society has been involved in the preparation of these plans and the consultation now of the detailed measures that will ensure the implementation of this plan. I will stop here, and then when the discussion, I can give more details.
Thank you. Now I can see here, just to say to people, if you have questions, you can put them in the question and answers. I will select or combine. There are enough questions, I think, to keep us a couple of days here. So I will really try to condense as much as possible. People are starting to put actually quite complex some of the questions. So then the other thing I realized some people were asking, what is the Mentimeter number to participate? Please, you can find it even in the chat, but it will be repeated later. Now I will go directly to Mr. Lemaitre. Please feel free to come and tell us the European Union perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jorge and Spiros, and in particular for having put together indeed a very relevant panel today. And I don't mean myself by this, but rather Gerasimos and Andrzej, and Kalimera and Dzień dobry to both of them. Let me start with the recovery plan, which the Commission has put forward for a sustainable recovery of the EU from the COVID-induced economic crisis. This recovery plan is of absolutely unprecedented proportions. It is a proposal which is, we believe, in all modesty, historic, and exactly what the EU requires in order to kickstart its recovery together. We are proposing de facto a more than doubling of the EU budget over the coming 4 years, and some 4% of GDP in additional grant support. I am setting aside for now the loans part of it, so grant support to member state. What we are aiming with that, though, is something specific. We are not aiming for just any recovery. We want a recovery which is future oriented, and I think this is translated very well in the name we have given this plan. It is about next generations. So it's called Next Generation EU. As President von der Leyen, in fact, put it very well, our collective ambition should be not to hand over to the next generations both additional debt, which is indispensable now for organizing the recovery, and a climate crisis. So clearly we need to aim for a very well thought through and very ambitious climate transition as part of the recovery. What are the main elements of the recovery plan? There is a proposal for a new instrument of considerable magnitude, which is called the Recovery and Resilience Facility. And under that facility, to give you just the examples of Poland and Greece here represented, we would have for Poland some 27 billion of grant support over the coming few years, and for Greece some 18 billion of grant support. And that support should notably be targeted at what we call the twin transition, the green transition on the one hand, and the digital transition on the other. A second element is a reinforcement of present cohesion policy with an additional 55 billion euros, which would come to top up existing running programs so that the uptake can be very fast. And here I can give a very simple example of how this could be put to best use. We will in the autumn propose a so-called renovation wave, meaning energy efficiency measures in for the building stock across Europe. There has been far too little and far too slow action there until now. And this additional money under cohesion policy could be put to very good and very fast use in this direction. And then, yes, we have the Just Transition Fund and the Just Transition mechanism. The Just Transition Fund would be increased to 40 billion from an originally proposed 7.5 billion, thanks to the recovery plan. This is even more than it sounds like, because until now, the territories we have identified to benefit from support from the Just Transition Fund represent less than 10% of the EU population. So you can imagine that a support of 40 billion on less than 1/10 of the EU population is indeed a very high concentration of means, in fact, the equivalent of the whole of cohesion policy. So what I would really claim is that in the coming years, money, if our proposals are adopted, will not be the issue. The issue will be about having sound strategies when it comes now, and I zoom in on that, when it comes to the successful transition of coal-dependent or lignite-dependent regions, when it comes to the transition towards a carbon-free future of carbon-intensive regions, the ones which have heavy and heavily polluting industry. What is required, as I said, is a sound strategy. We have seen in the past that, in fact, Europe has not always fared very well in anticipating the deep, especially industrial changes and restructurings which have taken place until now. Take shipbuilding, take the steel industry, take the textiles industry. We still have many regions which continue to suffer from an unfinished transition. So this is what we would want to do better this time round. We know, thanks to commitments like the one recalled here by Gerasimos, that governments have set, and we hope that more will do that, a very clear timeline to exit, for instance, from lignite production. Gerasimos said 2028 when it comes to Greece. So having this clear path towards exiting, now is really the time to focus on how to accompany this progressive exiting with the required flanking measures in order to ensure the livelihoods of the communities which will be most affected. And here I would suggest that really time is in fact very short. 2028 is tomorrow. And therefore we need to think fast and think well about these strategies. We suggest that all member states need to develop so-called territorial just transition plans for the territories they will have identified which would benefit from this just transition fund support, and which we would have agreed to. What is key, it seems to us, is local ownership of these strategies, which doesn't mean that locals have to draft it. It is not about that, but it is about having a sufficiently consultative and participatory process of all key local and regional actors. And this goes from economic and social partners to civil society and to citizens themselves. And of course, such a process takes a bit of time, but I think it would be time well spent. And if indeed we start this process now, or like Gerasimos suggested, if it has already started, well, we can certainly by early next year have such well thought through strategies approved and, as I said, owned by the local communities concerned. When it comes to Greece, I would like to also say a few things about Western Macedonia in complement to what Gerasimos already said, because I think Western Macedonia is really emblematic of, on the one hand, the challenges we are facing in different parts of Europe, and on the other hand, also the level of ambition which we need to pursue. In Western Macedonia, which is a region, Gerasimos, correct me if I'm slightly wrong there, of perhaps 300,000 people, so a community of 300,000 people, we have some 80,000 jobs which are dependent directly or indirectly on the lignite filière, value chain. So it is a relatively dominant part today still of the local economy. Secondly, Western Macedonia, at least as much as the rest of Greece, has suffered tremendously from the financial and economic crisis and has lost a lot of ground as compared to the EU average, and today is situated at around 60% of the EU average in terms of GDP per head. And then you have a twin problem when it comes to Western Macedonia, which is on the one hand, yes, its role in the whole energy system of Greece, and the fact that the local community is receiving the heat it requires for heating homes from the present energy system, and on the other hand, obviously, the jobs dimension, which has already been made abundantly clear. The money will not be a problem. I repeat it, and I dare to say it so strongly. Under the Just Transition Fund alone, Greece would be benefiting from 1.7 billion of support. And again, bringing that back to the number of people we are trying to help here, this is very, very considerable support. And as I said, this is not everything. You have the normal cohesion policy 21-27, which will also support Western Macedonia. You have the REACT-EU facility for immediate support and, for instance, for immediate energy efficiency measures, and you will have the recovery and resilience facility. Now, picking up on economic diversification, here, given the magnitude of the jobs at stake in Western Macedonia, I would want to highlight one feature of the JTF, which is very important. Gerasimos mentioned the potential of renewables in that region, like in many other places in Greece, and notably on coal mines sites. This is very important, but I guess we can all agree that this will not produce the numbers in terms of new jobs which are overall required in the region. So we need to look beyond that. One specificity of the JTF as compared to normal cohesion policy is that it would allow, if it is demonstrated that it is required to attract and create a sufficient number of new jobs in a particular region, it would be allowed to support big greenfield investment, or in this case, perhaps brownfield investments. This is, we believe, one key direction in which to look. And I would immediately jump on to, yes, the reskilling and upskilling efforts which need to accompany this. Once it would be clear where the new economic activities would lie, of what kind they would be, we can then also effectively make sure that the local workforce is reskilled in the right direction. The Commission is ready to help in all ways it can. You have, Spiros, already mentioned the launching of the Just Transition platform yesterday. This is part of what we are able to offer in terms of technical assistance. Gerasimos himself mentioned the World Bank, which in fact is being financed by the Commission to do its good work in Western Macedonia, and we are ready also to put in place what we would call just transition teams, so that the Commission services will work all hand in hand. One final point on Greece. We have a second element, which is a different kind of transition and a bit specific to Greece, which is strictly linked to the energy transition in islands, and we see that as a very valid second dimension for the JTF in Greece, with huge potential in Crete and in the Aegean islands to move away from heavy fuels and diesel generators and firmly into renewables thanks to interconnectors as well. One word then, but I would want Andrzej, of course, to tell the whole story, which he knows much better, on Silesia and Katowice. This is a region of Europe which has half of the active coal miners today in Europe. It is a region which has already known some progressive transition. In the year 2000, the coal sector represented a quarter of the region's economy. Now it is half of that, around 12%. There were 70 mines active. Now there are 18 mines active. It is progressive. It has been, I think, a relative success until now, but the job is not yet fully done, and so we do also think that the JTF will be part of the success story of Silesia and Katowice in particular in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I have to warn that the timing is getting tough, and I will need we'll try to get some questions discussed soon, but I need to go directly now to Mr. Zawiliński, the Vice President of the Katowice Special Economic Zone. I mean, you have been working and remaking the region, but from the point of view of the business side, please tell us your experience and what you really need, what you think the regions actually need from the public sector also. Where is there, what should they do and what should they not do? Please, it's your time. Microphone, yes, please.
Yes. Hello. I have a little problem in English language because here is my colleague Ola. Ola will be translate or short information. I will be contact. Okay. Ola. So, please, this information because time is very little.
So I'll try to make the information quite short. First of all, I would like to say that the difference between... so everything is okay? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes?
Okay.
We're all muted, so we cannot tell you.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that there is one difference between what was said before, because you were talking about the lignite coal, and in Poland, most of the coal and most of the mines are black coal mines, or in other words, hard coal. And the area that we would like to tell you about, or this success story, so to say, is the area that is called Warszowice area, which is located in the place on the area after the closed down coal mine. It is located in the southern part of Silesian province, in the neighborhood of the National Road. And it is located on within the two municipalities. The area, the surface of the area is about 40 hectares. Before the project, it was a very big investment, the coal mine investment. It was owned by the state treasurer, and it was discontinued at the end of, actually by the late 80s. Due to the government decisions. So there were many buildings already there, and it was simply stopped. So the basic assumptions for this project to be, let's say, redeveloped was to involve many actors, which was also said by the previous speakers. It was crucial to involve first local authorities, voivodeship or the province administration, as well as the relevant ministry that was responsible for the economic development. This was really critical and crucial part. Then it was really important to let's say, very precisely define who is the owner of the area. And finally, it was, the area was handed actually to the local authorities, to the municipalities, the two municipalities where the area is located. The local authorities still are highly, let's say, praised in Poland. That's why it was also very important. It was also crucial to indicate one specific leader of the project, which was also mentioned before, that governance is very important. And the leader of this project was the Żory municipality. And actually, it was in person of Mr. Zabieglinski, who by that time was the deputy mayor of the Żory city. So once everything was legally solved, the representative of the government was invited, and there were certain activities undertaken which were supposed to include this area in the special economic zone, so that we can so that the status of the economic zone could be granted, and which would give another, let's say, additional bonus in form of tax incentive to whoever, exactly. And here just one short digression, because special economic zone is the, let's say, yeah, it's the limited liability. No, it's the sorry, I just skipped my mind. It's a company who is co-owned by the state treasury and municipalities, and the aim of special economic zone was to strongly support all the restructuring processes in this in the area after all the let's say breakdown in the economy due to all those closing of the mines, etc. So this was our main aim, and in this point Mr. Zabieglinski joined Katowice Special Economic Zone, so he actually changed his position from deputy mayor to the vice president in the Special Economic Zone, and he started, let's say, developing, or he did this kickoff to all those conceptual and works which were aiming at starting all the redevelopment in this area. So he decided to put all the ideas and visions, to put them in real, so to say. Okay, it was really necessary to close down and to demolish all the old buildings which were erected by the previous actors, which was the mine, which was also very controversial, because some people would say, okay, there are already buildings, why would you demolish them? You can reuse them. But Mr. Zabieglinski, there was a strong need to make a very brave decision to, let's say, put everything to zero and start this redevelopment from the very beginning. So from let's say tabula rasa, we can call it. It was very, it aroused many controversies and emotions among local society and many actors in this area, but the decision was made, and it was necessary to, as I said, demolish all the buildings or the constructions, the roads, the old utilities, which was randomly scattered in the ground, and they could actually become they could have become an obstacle once we decide to do the new to build the new plants there. So everything was done, and simultaneously. The Mr. President with his team, they started searching for the financial aid because it was very money consuming, time consuming, and once everything was, let's say, demolished, the new utilities, communication, sewage system, gas system, energetic lines, everything had to be built from new, let's say. Okay. After that was done, the materials, let's say marketing materials, had to be also developed so that the society, the people, the investors, the potential investors can be informed about the new area that was developed here. Because, well, one of the main aims was also to attract new investors and to make people purchase the new areas, right, once they are developed. Today, after all these years of hard work, which was really difficult and complex, it really gives pride and joy when we see the results of all these chores, so to say. The leader, meaning Katowice Special Economic Zone, after all the work that was invested in redeveloping this area, and optimizing all the expenditures for the infrastructure development, and actually thoroughly planning the expenditures, right now can boast about 12 new business entities that operate on this area. It took about 10 years, so the whole decade, to introduce this new function to this area. There are more than 3,100 people employed there. There are several sectors who decided which are located here, which include household chemicals, automotive sector, construction sector, and energetic industry. Which is also very important, the investors who decided to locate their business there, they keep reinvesting their money, and they keep developing the plants that are located here. So they become bound to this area due to the further development of their plants there. Many of them also started, launched the R&D works here, so they opened new departments of their businesses, and which also adds up to this binding to this area. And actually, I would so to summarize, one of the most important thing is to, as it was said before, and I would like to stress it once again, is to involve all actors in this process. So it needs to be planned very, very thoroughly, and we need to involve the local, needs to be a, bottom-up mechanism. We need to involve local authorities, local community, and going up until the government. So this is very important. It's important to plan it, to indicate the leader who deals with the whole, who manages the whole project, and be very brave, not to be afraid to make brave decisions, even though some can arouse certain controversies, and also build the team who is determined to achieve the goal, and do it consequently from the very beginning until the end and the champagne opening.
Okay, I think I got it. I mean, it's very important to have the right teams. I have seen this in many regions, that the most important thing are the teams. Now we will go, because we have very little time. I have been reading all of the questions. I don't know if, Spiros, you can just put out the results of this Mentimeter to see how people feel about the transition thing. So I think that you were going to put them on the screen. This just to say how people were reacting. And I'm going to use this opportunity here to actually combine the questions and ask questions to all of you that you can then answer in sequence. I mean, what I see from most of the questions, if I just summarize everything in a very short way, the main concern is effectively what to do with the people that are working in there, how to just make a change that makes sense to them. So how to really deal with the socioeconomic parts. Another question that is some, especially from the regions from Greece, but it goes to all of them. How to move in the section, not only about the social and the skills section, to actually reuse the people that are there to work, but there was an issue about the energy mix, the storage. What about storage and hydrogen? How to handle all of these renewables? And so that's, and there were issues about this transition of the coal. Are there no ways to handle this in another way? Even some people spoke about the CCU, but the main issue is really about the social transformation. I think most people are really concerned about the how to get it, because some regions also that have been in decline took many years to recover if it's not well done. But please, I open the floor. Maybe I can ask again with Gerasimos to go on how he sees the regions in Greece be able to overcome this without the pitfalls of a decline of a sector? Let's say, is there, how well can this be done?
Yeah, I thank you very much, and it's interesting to see the results, and renewables and energy efficiency come in the middle of the graph. So I think for these energy regions, I think we have to retain in mind that the people want also to retain some kind of energy expertise, and this is why we have put also the deployment of renewables as an important element of the future of the region. It is true, and I see it a lot of comments, that the employment potential of renewable and photovoltaic plants is much smaller, of course, than lignite plants, but the employment generation potential during construction is not that bad. We have to restitute land in order to put the photovoltaics and the new renewables. So in the very short term, the land restitution goes hand in hand with the development of photovoltaics in Western Macedonia and in Peloponnese. It accelerates the incentives for having fast and efficient land restitution. Of course, the long-term employment effects are less important, and that's why we need to use renewables as part of a strategy to keep the people employed in the region and then gradually transform into new activities. But there is important employment potential in developing and deploying renewables in the short term. The second comment I want to make is on innovation, rightly so, and I couldn't mention all in my introductory remarks. Innovation, storage, I have questions about hydrogen, CCS are very important part of the future. And we all know at the European level that even if we have very ambitious targets for 2030, we know that the zero carbon economy for 2050 will require innovation and new technologies that we are not even aware of today. So innovation is another part that needs to develop and take hold in these regions who have very skilled people that are skilled in energy and highly skilled blue-collar workers. They need to be part, innovation needs to be part of the future of the region, but it needs time. So we need a guide of sequencing of reforms and sequencing of skills development. We cannot jump from lignite mines to Silicon Valley effect, in 3 years. So we need to have a sequencing and a plan in order to deploy innovation capacity. Third remark I will make, and I want to insist on this for us, it is very important, the regional dimension. Western Macedonia is just on the south of the Western Balkans. I think both from the environmental, from the electricity, and from the economic point of view, it is important to decarbonize the countries north of our border. Albania, North Macedonia, Bulgaria is making plans, and the capacity and the potential of Southeastern Europe to decarbonize is huge. I mean, the Western Balkans generation capacity is very old. It's very few renewables. So as part of the pre-accession strategy and the new future for Western Balkans, it is important to work together with these countries also to help their transition. We do hope that the Western Macedonia master plan for delignitization, it becomes best practice, and it will help us to work together with our neighbors, not only to link up our energies and electricity systems, but also to have a cleaner Western Balkans and sustainable future for the whole region. And the last element that I would mention is, and thank you, Mark, for bringing it up, is of course the islands. The decarbonization of islands, that it's a different dimension. Most of the Greek islands have now oil producing or mazout producing, generation. We have a strategy of connecting the islands, and also we have let's say, the strategy of deploying hybrid systems in the island, so renewables plus storage. So we are developing in parallel a master plan for the islands. The challenges are very different, geographically spread, and the employment content of this transition is very different, but it is important to turn the Greek islands and the European islands into a demonstrator for sustainable economy. So electromobility is an important component of this strategy. Somebody asked me the question, if renewables is 35% of the energy mix, what is the rest? And the rest, when it comes to electricity, it will, as I mentioned, renewables will be more than 60% in 2030 and up to 85% in 2050. But when it comes to the energy mix, we need to decarbonize the transport sector, and electromobility is an important part of our strategy for that.
Okay, thank you. Now, unfortunately, because the time has gone over, what I will do is that I will give a very quick three-pointer like kind of summary, and then if anybody has anything against it to say that I'm not right, you can. But first of all, well, thank you for also presenting. We have heard here we have an explanation of the plans for Greece, and it's interesting than we had from the Director General from Regional Policy. We had this from Energy. Sorry, the description of how to use the funds, the Just Transition and the other funds, how to combine the funds, how to use all of this power to actually manage to create a plan that is coherent and multi-sectoral and bottom-up also, and how to consult. So we have all of these structures, and we have heard also the position from Poland of how they have been creating a new economic zone. These are all examples, these are all tools that you have to be operating in these regions. And I would just recommend everybody to look at them, look at all the options from every region, and actually to ask and to find out and look at the examples. Katowice is one example. There are other ones also on how to move. So if regions want to change, people want to understand, it's good to read how other places have managed, how big business places have been built. And please feel free also to ask questions or to find out or to contact us if you want to follow up with some of the presenters or with some of the material that has come. I have to stop here. If there is any final comment, Spiros, you want to say something? So if the time...
All I want to say, because we're running out of time here, is that I want to thank all three speakers for being with us. I also want to say that from the voting that we did, we saw, to my surprise, that about 75% was about investment. It was not about job loss or anything. So I think that all three of you, Mark and Andrzej and Gerasime, you are on the right track because you focus the effort in trying to provide solutions through new employment, new potential for people, and through investment in renewable energy. And also our voting was about renewables, opportunity, and jobs. So I think that if we follow on this path, then probably what the European Commission President and also what the Greek government and the region of Katowice did will be seeing Europe going into a new route and hopefully becoming a world leader also in the fight to addressing climate change. So with this, just thank you very much, all of you, and of course CEPS for being with us with the EPLO Institute for Sustainable Development. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paragalo. Bye-bye.
Thank you to everybody and for your patience. Thanks for all the attendance.
Jorge, thank you for mastering this. Take care.
Oh, I tried.
You did.
Dziękuję bardzo.
We will stay in contact and improve Europe.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.